your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West. Here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Oh, yeah. Let's get to it. Story number 1. A local coach goes all in. Haley Roginski has an article published August 12th explaining how a Liberty baseball coach is paying to renovate the former Liberty High School baseball field. The article goes on to explain how Jason Kidd has agreed to give the Liberty local school district $35,000 for allowing his team to use the baseball field when the students are not. Now, according to the report, the money will be used to repair, restore, and maintain the baseball field, thus getting this story into the top 8 because one man in the giving spirit could spread. That's why story number 1 made it this week, especially in time when people needed the most. Story number 2, Steward Health still in local headlines. Steward Health remains in the headlines after reaching a deal to sell its nationwide physicians network. Steward Health is scheduled to proceed with bankruptcy protection. The entire health network consists of 5,000 physicians in Massachusetts and 9 other states, treating about 400,000 patients. The planned purchase and sale price is $245 million, according to a staff report in the Mediator published August 14th. Now, we got the story in is the continued pressure that is being put on Steward Health officials, especially the CEO, and the fact that they have local hospitals that are still active in this area. That's what the story is still developing. That's story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3. What is going on at Mill Creek Park? Ed Ryan has a headline published August 12th explaining how a group wants Mill Creek Metro Parks commissioners removed from their duties. Now, according to the piece, this has a lot to do with the deer hunting decision to handle the local deer problem. Now, according to the article, the deer supporters are looking to gather 2,500 signatures to remove Metro Park commissioners. Now, 204 deer have been killed from October 1st of 2023 to January 2024. That's according to the report. The report also says that they're saying that the argument is that the Metro Parks did not have the authority to carry out the reduction program. When they talk about killing the deer, now this story is still developing. The next set of deer reduction plans are expected to begin September 29th. That's why story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4. The local marijuana bug is spreading. What does the research say, though? Research shows that whenever bad habits overall, they're saying that the standing laws, whenever you put a bad habit into a standing law, so that means, like, if they're saying that marijuana is illegal, when you make it legal, this is what the research says, that things seem to get worse, and the local marijuana bug, folks, is spreading. So they're saying that when you say marijuana is legal from the past, and what research shows is that things seem to get worse. So we'll see how this turns out. Recreational marijuana is now on the Hubbard ballot. That means it's spreading. The people are starting to catch on to this new marijuana bug. Now, when looking deeper into the past, I came across research that shows that the marijuana plant was being used back a long time ago as a war tactic to weaken and conquer enemies. Now, I did find the marijuana plant being useful outside of human recreation purposes, for like engineering purposes. But overall, the civilizations that consumed the plant heavily in the age of brutal combat, where they were defeated and scattered. That's what I found in research. Now, only time will tell how this affects current living conditions locally and to the states and the communities that are allowing marijuana into their communities to be used for healing and all that other stuff, like the hemp and all the stuff that comes with this plant, especially if they start using it back for engineering. So that's why I started number 4 made it this week, because the bug is spreading. People are starting to use this plant, this weed or whatever you would call it, and nobody knows how it's going to turn out. But the research shows that it's not good. But we'll see how this happens. That's story number 4 made this week. Story number 5: agriculture grants spread to local schools. West Branch is set to receive $40,000, and Springfield is set to receive $10,955 from the Grow Ohio grant program. More than $332,900 is being distributed among 14 districts. This is according to a Mediator staff report published August 12th. Let's getting this story to the top because we're talking, well, it's top 8 because we're talking money. Big head. Story number 6: Boardman is making plans for emergency response units. Well, a emergency response unit. Russell Brickey has an article out of Boardman with a headline reporting on how Boardman's fire chief says a new emergency response team will be in place next fall. This is after the East Palestine train derailment and the Realty Tower explosion in downtown Youngstown. Now, the article lays out some emergency plans being put in place to help combat odd emergency situations and is well worth a read, especially for those looking to vote yes for EMT tax levies. Now, thus getting this story into the top 8. Now, Boardman's fire department has been very active when it comes to local safety inspections also. So that means that if they pop up at your door, they even popped up in my business doing fire inspections, then you know why. That's why story number 6 also made to the top 2 this week. Big head. Story number 7 and the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week, folks. I gotta conjure up the spirit of doing something and staying informed. Could you imagine if I just sat around and did nothing? I would not be able to enlighten you, give you the spirit and the energy to want to stay informed. Yes, that's why I'm doing this for you, keep you informed. Story number 7: Lordstown teachers are in the headlines. Bob Copeland has a headline out of Lordstown published August 12th. It appears that the Lordstown Teachers Union has approved a 10-day strike notice for the start of the 2024-2025 academic year on September 3rd. The article is well worth a read to understand what is taking place in Lordstown. The piece goes on, well, the piece does say that some offers have been made when it comes to health insurance benefits, but they're saying that the negotiations are still ongoing. Now, before the airing of this show, the story was still developing. That's why story number 7 also made to the top this week because we're talking teachers. Big head. Story number 8 and the top local headline and developing news story that made this week. It's almost time to go back to school. I hope the local people are finding discounts. Please, if you do want to find some stuff at the store, come on in. I'll find something that we can use, maybe some notebooks or something. People drop stuff off all the time. So shout out to everybody getting ready to go back to school. We still got a little bit of time left, so let's get to this top 8 story. Well, this top story. Story number 8, more sobering news in the downtown explosion story. Ed Ryan has a headline published August 14th explaining how new lawsuits have been filed over injuries and losses from the downtown explosion. The article is in-depth and reports on how the plaintiffs in the case are suing several natural gas companies for the mishap. Greenheart Companies, which is the company hired to remove utility lines from underneath the sidewalk, and they're saying that there's another lawsuit that has been filed against the building's owners and managers. How crazy is that? Now, the article is filled with information and even mentions the names of everyone involved. Now, the story is staying alive because the people are getting help from lawyers and attorneys. Folks, this is a big headline. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere. You're on the Mediator. Me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
The nature of a marauder is to obey their orders from the North Star Galaxy. No planet's leader has ever defeated their order leader in battle.
Who are you?
I'm the fighting princess. My planet and kingdom have been surrendered to the marauders.
Icky! Icky, get out! They're coming!
I am all that Escobar has left when it comes to order.
Who is the hidden force guiding Escobar?
Really gotta wonder why a guy like you has ended up in a place like this.
I need North Stardust, and as fast as possible.
A huge space rock just crashed in the middle of the backfield. Now when it crashed, little lightning bugs started spreading all over the crops. I don't know what's going on. We gotta go fix it.
I want to tell you that if you give me an army, I promise you that I will strengthen our weak plan.
I will make you what Vector cannot become.
I'm ready to fight to the death.
The stars are sending us a force to help us, but who or whatever they're sending, they're gonna end up needing us more than we'll need them.
They're coming. We must prepare for battle.
Who's coming?
Look at Escobar now! Do you see what it has become? We...
I think I know how to end this.
Hey, are you alright? Hey, are you okay?
I'll see you on the other side.
Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? No!
The Land of Escobar Part 5, The Fighting Princess, The Hidden Kingdom, and the Mirror Stones. Welcome back, welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Folks, this week we're talking about smokers and drinkers and people who use drugs and you know, those habits are expensive. And smokers and drinkers get to the point to where they like have this careless, toxic nature. And I don't know if it's because the toxins they're putting into their body. The other day, you know, I go over my mom's house. She has neighbors, and we all have a real decent relationship with our neighbors, and I've learned something about. I have a lot of smokers in my family, and I can't be around her. I start wheezing and I can't breathe. You know, I got breathing problems, but so I've learned something about the nature. Smokers are usually laid back, and they need their time with the peace pipe. You know, they'll be having a bad day. You'll see them outside, and they'll just be puffing away. But I've learned something about them, and that is that they have this attitude of carelessness, to where when they're around other people, they don't care. You know, you'll be like, sir, I got breathing problems. And they'll just be puffing away, and, you know, they just don't care. You're like, brother, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I can't breathe. And it's all right. And they'll always make an excuse, you know. Smoking, like the air is polluted. You breathe in the air. You're like, brother, please. I can't breathe. And that's the problem with smoking and drinking. Drinkers, too. You know, people don't seem to get it until they hit somebody or get in an accident. You know, you'll see somebody drunk, and if this world was mine, I'd give you a flower. And they just go crashing, and they don't get it till they break something. And then you start arguing. Well, you gotta stop this habit. Slow down. That's the topic this week. We talk about smoking and drinking. These bad habits spread, and you can't get their attention. No, you can't talk. You can't convince them until something goes wrong. And that's when they want to put it down. When their bodies start falling apart, doctors say they got lung cancer. Some of my great grandparents, the doctor said, John, you got lung cancer. Man, still was smoking. LC, you got lung cancer. Still smoking. Jim, your lung is going to fall out. Still smoking. I mean, this is a die-hard sport. I was going to make a song about it. Matter of fact, I think I will. If you smoke, you realize that life is a joke. Where you smoke, Ooh, when you smoke, yeah, you need to stop, yeah, but you smoke, smoke, that's all you do is smoke. And when I need my oxygen, you gon' pay for it, cause you smoke. Let's wait no time, folks. That's my song. I gotta get the melody down. I'm still working on it. Well, let's waste no time this week. When you smoke, it's a joke. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 1. How are America's malls doing? Especially when they say no smoking. The leases are harsh, folks, and expensive. And with online shopping, many malls, stores are hanging on by a thread. CNBC has a piece about what the malls are doing to stay relevant and afloat in this environment. It's chaotic. Now the headline talks about apartments. They put apartments. Someone put apartment buildings, hockey rinks, and even Amazon warehouses in some of these malls. The business is bad, especially when you got to pay for the tenants who have to pay these big leases. Now the headline concludes by talking about Macy's closures and how they will start off a wave of changes at malls once Macy's starts closing their stores, folks. That's a big money in these malls. The article goes on to explain how Macy's is set to close about 150 stores across the country by early 2027. This alone could cause a price war in every retail mall in which costs are already high. That's what story number 1 made it this week. Story number 2. How is the steel business? Business Insider has an interesting article about the world's largest steel maker and how they are warning the industry, warning of an industry crisis that could be worse than in 2008. Now the article goes on to explain how Chinese producers are turning to foreign markets to unwind their steel supply, and even points out how steel prices are sliding downward. The story is still developing, thus getting the attention on the steel business. Story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3. When work is needed the most, burnout occurs. Inc. has a report explaining how employee burnout has reached a new boiling point. That's word for word. Now, the article is definitely on time, explaining how employee burnout just keeps getting worse and goes further to blame business leaders. Now, the piece talks about resignations and a workroom floor that is sluggish. The article points out some great points, if you want to check it out, some great talking points, and even talks about what some business leaders are doing to fix the problem. The story is a must read, especially for those looking for something to research post-COVID meltdown mode about the workroom floor. That's why story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4. Colleges are pushing back and regrouping. CBS News has a piece explaining how U.S. colleges are slashing majors in an effort to cut costs. Now, the article goes on to explain how some students are left with no choice but to search elsewhere for the courses that they need. The article does talk about the cost of college debt and tuition and points out some key stats. If you did not know, the typical college grad now earns about $60,000 per year compared to $36,000 for people who just have a high school degree. Now, the article does not talk about the athletic departments and how some students are cashing in on name, image, and likeness deals when we talk about sports, but it does succeed at getting readers to understand what colleges are doing to reach budget goals. That's why this story made it in. Well, folks, are our top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 4. So don't you go anywhere. You're the Mediator. Me, Brian West. I'll be right back. Tune in to Methodate's YouTube channel to check out the top interviews that made it throughout the years and months. Visit methodate.com. Check out all the community interviews if you want to check it out. Methodate.com. Buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Oh, yeah. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that I made this week. Folks, this week we're talking about bad habits. And I talk to people all the time and we have conversations, and what I notice is that usually when somebody is trying to stop a bad habit, it gets ugly. You know, I had one friend, and every time something would go wrong, he'd disappear. You know, some of these people are on drugs. Some people are on, have real bad habits, and sometimes when they want to stop, it's hard. You know, because when something goes wrong, they need that bad habit. You know? Like as soon as somebody do something, like somebody can steal something, and then what I learned is that the people who have the most bad habits, there's a lot of chaos that surrounds these bad habits. Chaos, they get into it with people, frustrated, people steal, and they need money to survive. They spend the money on the bad habit, so they don't have the money to pay the bills, and that's all consistent in a bad habit. That's why it's so hard for people to stop, because they get stressed. You know, you got smokers, drinkers, drug addicts. Everybody has one vice. You know, it could even be porn, but I don't know if that's. I think people kind of naturally want to have sex, but bad habits are hard to stop. You know, and you never know who's got a bad habit that they're trying to stop. But the more you pressure them, you know, tell them. I think most people just have to stop on their own. That's what I've learned, and I've seen people who have stopped on their own, but they found a way to kind of just smooth it out, but you're still thinking about that bad habit. You know, somebody gets smacked. Man, you know what? I could sure use a drink. Ooh, or I could sure use something to make me ease my mind. And some people need that bad habit. That's why there's so much focus on stopping bad habits, because they cost a lot, consumers. And people are starting to take notice. That's why you see a lot of people protesting tobacco companies and beer companies, because it's like, man, you know, you people. But some people, they don't look at it that way. They look at it as a way of having fun. But that's what the focus is this week. Bad habits. And how some people get to the point to where when they have nothing left, everything is lost, they've lost their family, they finally start to get it. And they may want to stop that bad habit. You can do it. You can put it down. Ooh, yeah. You can put it down. Let's wait no time, folks. Bad habits. When will they come to an end? Let's get to it. Story number 1. Speaking of bad habits, teachers are worried about their students. This is a big story because teachers are really worried about it. A lot of young kids have some very bad habits. Fox News has a familiar headline about how Chicago Teachers Union, they claim that black kids cannot pass standardized tests. Now, this is not an unfamiliar topic. In fact, it has been going on as far back as the civil rights movement, and goes back further in an education system that was riddled with unfair tactics aimed at keeping blacks from receiving education. This is, if you take it back, no, this is true. I'm not making this up. Now, today's system is staying in top headlines because now teachers are stating lack of motivation and even chronic absenteeism and carelessness from parents. Now, the focus now is on low-income Americans rather than just one race, black Americans. This is happening across the board. Now, this is a shift from when students wanted to be educated. The article does mention racial barriers as a factor. That's why it made it, folks. The story is still developing. That's why it's a big headline, because it's spreading. Big headline. Story number 6. Undocumented immigrants still a topic of discussion. Fast Company says that undocumented immigrants pay almost $100 billion in taxes, according to a study. The immigration issue is becoming a hot topic due to the fact that resources are becoming scarce, and COVID made it even worse. If you did not know, President Joe Biden in June, according to the report, restricted the number of asylum seekers entering the country, and Republicans are promising the largest mass deportation program in American history if they win the White House. So they're trying to crack down on. The article is by focusing on the fact that when it comes to work, if undocumented immigrants had work authorization, it will result to an increase of their tax contributions from $40 billion to $137 billion per year. This is story number 6, also made to the top 2 this week. Big talking point. Big. Story number 7 and the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week for you to keep you informed. Story number 7. Money is tight. Everything costs in America, and Middle and low income Americans are running out of disposable cash. That's according to a report. Now, this is according to a headline in Fox Business. This echoes what is going on in the homes across America. The article goes all in on the struggles that lower and middle class Americans are facing when it comes to paying the bills. This story is gaining steam and people are speaking out when it comes to their finances. This is all while some headlines say inflation is easing. USA Today has a headline saying that inflation is easing, but Americans still aren't feeling it. The article was published by by Paul Davidson, August 13th. Now, the article talks about a 4.3% unemployment rate, a rebounded stock market, and pre-pandemic total household wealth. How they're saying that it's nearly 40% higher, and they're still having people having money problems. Now, one CNN report even goes as far as to highlight how Social Security benefits are not keeping up with inflation, folks. This story is just heating up. So story number 7 made it this week. Big headline. Story number 8 and the top international headline and developing news story that made it this week. I go hard in the paper. Gotta keep you informed. What do you thinking? Story number 8. Foreign affairs could be a top concern in the next election. Foreign affairs may be a top issue in the next election, folks. If you did not know, BBC News has a headline explaining how the U.S. has sent a submarine to the Middle East as tensions continue to grow. Another headline surfaced later explaining how a Russian spy ship was spotted off of the coast of the United States. The fact remains that foreign affairs could be a sleeping issue, and so far, because if you look at what the Trump and Harris campaign has been talking about so far, foreign affairs, the plan has yet to make it in the big stage. That means they're not really talking about it. If they are, it's not really being highlighted as a big issue. Now, this story is still developing as tensions continue to heat up overseas. AFP News says that the U.S. has approved a $20 billion weapons package for Israel. So obviously, the cash is milking, and taxpayers are starting to take notice. That's why it's starting to rate made to the top this week. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out doing the research. As usual, I'd like to thank all the news outlets, the journalists, and people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just the media, the man in the middle, navigating your stories to keep people informed. If you want to show some support here at Method, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor the program, or you can stop by the store at 5648 Market Street, buy something in the store, or just see my smiling face, shake my hand. That's 5648 Market Street in Boardman or Youngstown, Ohio. Well, folks, I am out of here. I'll be back next week looking through over 200 or more stories just to keep you informed. Thank you for tuning to the Media this week with me, Brian West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.